welcome to episode 4 of How I See It. Today's topic is illegal drugs. I take a libertarian approach about illegal drugs, and if you're not familiar with that, it's basically if you want to do drugs, as long as you're not breaking any laws, if you're not hurting people, then do what you want in the privacy of your own home. And that's how I feel about drinking as well. And I particularly don't see. I don't do drugs. The only one I don't really have any kind of problem with is marijuana. I don't think that should be considered a drug because it's more of an herb and it's homeopathic and it has medicinal use, which I know heroin has medicinal use too, but marijuana just really doesn't have the deaths associated with it, the loss of things associated with it. You look at anybody who's been on crystal meth or heroin for a long time, and they don't have much of anything because everything goes towards getting the drug. But that's neither here nor there on how I feel about them having access to it. If a guy is out in his garage doing crystal meth and he stays in his garage and doesn't bother anybody, fine, let him. It's not my problem. Now, if he goes around doing stuff, then yeah, I've got a problem. I've got a problem if he's got kids around when he's doing it and if he's acting badly in front of children. I feel the same way about alcohol, and alcohol's legal. I don't think that kids should see mean drunks, or some of the things that go along with it. Now, some people are just really happy-go-lucky drunks, and you can't piss them off no way, no how, and the kids are just laughing at them because they're funny, stumbling around, and they don't really think anything of it. But it is kind of lax parenting to be impaired, because if you have to take your kids to the hospital, driving impaired is not a great thing. I don't think that the crystal meth addicts would have a problem getting somebody to the hospital. It'd just take them a really long time because they keep stopping for things. Oh, just 1 second. I got to get this. I got to get that. Because, no concept of time. Pothead, it might take them a while to get to the hospital because they're driving 25 miles per hour. Heroin addict who's just gotten high on heroin, probably not going to be able to drive the kids to the hospital. And then there's the whole thing about you don't want the kids getting a hold of those major things. But anyhow, my main focus is that if you are only hurting or helping yourself, depending on how you look at what the drug does for you, if it is just you and you're not causing any kind of disturbances, fine, have at it. Go ahead. I don't think that it's the government's place to say you can't have access to this. And with the government taking away all the opioids, people are really looking for ways to get that kind of high, and they're turning to other pharmaceuticals. They're turning towards heroin or other like crocodile, which I don't know how big of a problem that is in America yet, but I know it's a big problem in Russia because heroin's hard to get. But also, if all of these drugs were legalized, there would no longer be a reason for the cartel to do as much damage as they do. The government could tax it. They could regulate it. You think about Janis Joplin died of a heroin overdose because the heroin was almost pure. So that's what killed her. So, you could have it where they regulate to make sure that you know what you're getting when you buy it. And that would take money away from the cartels if the government started saying, well, hey, we'll provide heroin. If you can buy it, you can come get it, people wouldn't have to do crystal meth. They could actually get pharmaceutical grade crystal meth, which would stop some of the brain rot and things that go with what you're putting in your body when you do crystal meth. Because when you look at how it's made, it's like really, I wouldn't want to put any of that in my body, but that's me. I'm not an uppers girl. I like to chill, and that's just not my thing. But I would think that if I did want to do that, I would want to do more, something that was clinical, which they can make crystal meth with better, some pharmacists that I used to know said that one of their class projects was to make crystal meth without using Sudafed, and to use ingredients that were not harmful to the body. And that was one of their class projects, was to make it with things that they could get that weren't harmful. I don't know how they did it. I know and I'm not going to say what one of the ingredients was that they said that would work as Sudafed and is not regulated, or at least it wasn't at the time that they did their project. Given how inventive a lot of cookers are, they might have figured this out already, and then that's become regulated. But the government has spent so much money on a war on drugs, and they've spent so much money fighting the cartel and border patrol to keep drugs out, when some people can handle that stuff. There's people in jail still for marijuana possession. And that's just crazy. I mean, marijuana is a plant. Why can't I grow a plant? Why can't I? How is it the government's business to tell me that I can't grow a plant? I can't grow a poppy. I can't grow a marijuana plant. That's a plant. It's a freaking plant. Why not tell me I can't grow dandelions anymore? Or I can't grow morning glories? I'm sure there's other kinds of drugs that I could grow. There's other kinds of things that I could grow that if I did something with them, I could get fucked up. How can you regulate a plant and then bring God into it? Because they do like to say, they do like to, it's normally these ultra conservative, Bible thumping people that are against legalizing marijuana for recreational use or even for medicinal use. And it's like, this isn't just something that a lab created. This is something that has been around since the beginning of, probably since plants started popping up. And you're going to say that a person can't grow these plants? You're going to say it is illegal to have this plant growing? It's a plant. I'll never get that they can feel that way about that. That, I mean, it just boggles my mind that they can be so dead set against people having something that grows naturally, and that you have to do very little to make it a usable product for homeopathic things, which, you got to think back in the day when people got sick, they'd go out and they'd gather tree bark, and they'd gather this, and they'd gather that kind of mushroom and that kind of thing, and they'd bring it in and they'd mix it all together, and this is how they would treat certain things. And there has been there has been written literature about medicinal cannabis back, for as long as people have been putting down cures for things. And poppies, poppies, you had milk of the poppy for people who were in pain. I don't care if somebody abuses it. I mean, I feel bad if their family's suffering due to that abuse, but if a person is growing a poppy plant and they're getting milk of the poppy or whatever the fuck they want to do with that plant, as long as they're the only ones, as long as they're not supplying it to other people and in mass quantities, like as long as they're not like a big drug dealing kingpin, what does it matter? They're using a plant for personal purposes. If they're not going out robbing stores and doing things that they shouldn't be doing, why? Why fuck with them? Let them grow their plants, smoke their weed, shoot their heroin. My dad used to say all the time, and my dad was not a libertarian, and he was very against drug use in all forms, because he felt that people shouldn't get addicted to things. He's like, anytime I find that I like something, I realize that's a problem and I nip it in the bud. That was my dad. He said, just give them all the drugs that they want so they'll kill themselves. Let them party it up till they can't party no more, till their bodies give out. That was my dad, I don't go that far. I mean, granted, it would be nice to say, hey, give them all the drugs. Can you imagine how happy a pothead would be if the government's like, just give them all the drugs that they want? That pothead would be sitting on a mountain of kush, just having a blast for the rest of his life, and wouldn't be fucking with anybody. He wouldn't be going to work, probably, except he would have to buy snacks. He would keep the food industry in business. The heroin addicts, of course, are gonna die out, because there's two places a heroin addict goes. That's rehab or the grave. I mean, that's the really sad thing about that, is that you won't really see somebody who's been really hardcore on heroin straight for a long time. It's not that it's impossible. It's that the drug, I think that their lives would be extended if it was a legal drug that they could get possession of, and it was regulated so that they would know exactly what they're getting. That's the main problem, is you don't know what you're getting, and if you quit because you got to go get clean or whatever, and then you start up and there's, it's not like there's a handbook for heroin addicts that says, hey, when you're clean, you can't just start back up with the dose that you left off. They don't really have a handbook for that. So, this is why you get ODs. It's a very easy drug to overdose on. And that's where people are going. So I think that it should be legal, just simply for the people who can't get opioids. Let them get poppy plants, let them do heroin, but have somebody who can actually educate them on how to do it. Because, there's people that are in pain and nobody's giving them anything except saying, take some ibuprofen, take some Tylenol, and we all know that those might help, but they're not gonna, and then we are a nation of addicts. That's just who we are. I don't know exactly how the rest of the world rates against it, but I know that Americans are a nation of addicts, whether we're addicted to sex, porn, drugs, alcohol, whatever. We're just addicted to stuff. We're looking for something, and I think it goes down to, as I've said before in one of my other videos, mental health care. You're looking for something to fix you. And when you find something that makes you feel the way that you want to feel, you're going to want to keep doing it, because Lord knows the healthcare and mental health care systems in America are not doing it for you. You have to go out and find your solutions. And that's just not working. So, all drugs legal, and just monitor if that person is committing any crimes. If they commit a crime, they go to jail for the crime, not for the drug use, not for the possession. If their kid gets a hold of the crystal meth or cocaine or heroin and overdoses, they get charged. with that because it was their drugs. You know, just like it is now, except take off possession, take off the war on drugs, allow places to make cleaner drugs to distribute to people, allow facilities to make drugs that are fit for human consumption for people. This is what we need. I mean, I'm not saying that we need marijuana and we need all these other drugs, but I'm saying that we don't need to waste money and time on regulating the drugs. Let people do what they're going to do. Deal with the ones who have a problem. Because, I mean, people are doing it anyway. May as well make some money off of it. And the government, not, okay, all of these states that have legalized recreational marijuana or even medicinal marijuana, why is the federal government not saying across the board they're okay with it? If they make it across the board that, you know, kind of like alcohol sales and tobacco sales, or I should say alcohol sales, because like in Arkansas, we've got dry counties and wet counties. Actually, I think that changed. But anyway, and like in Texas, they sell on Sundays, and in Arkansas, we don't sell on Sundays, but the government gets their share of it. Why can't they just make it across the board that if it's legal where you live, or it's legal throughout the United States, but if it's illegal where you live, then it's illegal where you live. That way, the government could take their money. I mean, the national deficit would knock down pretty good. They've got just the surplus of money in these states now. And the dispensaries could actually put their money in actual banks. They could do actual banking and their money would be safer. Our banks would be stronger because we would have this new influx of cash that isn't coming from Saudi Arabia. If you want to get technical, I mean, a lot of the money that's in our banks is not even ours. So let that money go into the banks and be FDIC insured and all that kind of stuff, and let the government take their little cut. I don't know why they're not jumping on this bandwagon. It costs them nothing to say. They're not saying we support it. We're saying that if where you live it's legal, we're going to get our cut. So that's how I see it. It's a big deal around my house. My husband is an avid marijuana fan. I am an avid right to choose fan. You know, it's your choice as long as you're not hurting anybody. Do what you want to do. Be free. Be happy. So that's how I see it. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.